All right, we're back on Radio Row here as we get ready for the Super Bowl, and you're going to see a totally different me. My demeanor is going to change normally. Normally, the jokes would already be coming. You know, there's only one military branch. You know, like I said, these other clowns are old Army. He's half and half. He deserted us. But talk to me about, and then I'm going to tell you the story, the respect that not only you guys do back and forth, but that other military and civilians, that word Marine means something, not only to you guys, but others.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's
well, first introduce yourselves.
Thanks. Lieutenant Colonel Mike Thiesing from VMM 774.
Yep, Major Justin Pickock. We're here for the Super Bowl flyover.
And where are you guys stationed?
So I'm out of San Diego, California at Miramar.
Oh, okay.
And I'm out of New River, North Carolina.
Okay.
And we're both reservists. So
all right.
So I live in Texas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so now the word Marines to everybody, not just you guys.
Yeah, I mean, it is everybody worldwide, right? The word Marine means excellent. And so everybody knows that we are the finest fighting force the world has ever known.
And we're celebrating 250 years this year.
250 years of excellence.
Big years, so that's part of why we're here doing the flyover.
Talking about that. Last year, we had their Air Force again, barely military, and I harassed them, and now Pilot 3 and Pilot 4 are two of my closest friends.
Awesome.
So it's a lot of civilians don't understand the ribbing, that goes back and forth, and obviously you guys are different. You're officers, so you don't really get harassed as much as civilians.
We harass each other enough. So
it's just not in front of their face, right, Randy? It's around the corner,
Oh no, we do it right to each other's face.
Well, when you're in the same room and it's just you, you're always ribbing each other, and I'm the best, right? But when we turn our face outwards, then we're all on the same team, right?
And that's what you have to do. In order to be the best, you have to hold each other to a higher standard. Whether that's Navy, Marines, and like I was talking earlier, I've deployed on ships with Navy pilots, and we'll go fly together, and after the flight, we'll go debrief, and we right to their face. You weren't very good. You were here. You were messed up. You were all jacked up, and this, that, or the other. You weren't on time. No, you weren't on time. Yeah, and so it's but it's good. You got to hold us to a higher standard.
They're ex-Army. I'm ex-Navy. Why is there no such thing as ex-Marine? Once a Marine, always a Marine.
It's a part of our culture. We start off right at the beginning. You start to drink the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
And it's really awesome to know that you are forever a Marine. So when you step foot on the yellow footprints, and they hand you the Eagle Globe and Anchor, you know that it's for life, and so you are dedicated to it.
I think with your service, being a Marine, you've got to have that mentality, don't you? Because it's first in, last out. So it's like when you're saying drink the Kool-Aid, and plus a lot of people don't understand the Marines are not a large organization like the Army. That's why they say the few, the proud. I mean, how many Marines total are there roughly?
180,000.
There you go. That's not much compared to the Army. What is that? A quarter of? Yeah, right. That's what I'm saying. God, a million, about 10 to 1.
I was doing a broadcast. I do a lot with the UFC, obviously Knockout Radio. So one of the PR people said, "Hey, one of our champions is Army. Do you want to get him on?" And I said, "Well, if I have to, we'll put him on." So the guy sits down. He's got the belt, the whole 9 yards, and the first thing right out of the blocks, I go, "I'm ex-military. It's a shame you're not. You're Army." And he looked at me, and he got as red as that banner, and then he goes, and I had a bad feeling, and he goes, "Army, I'm a Marine." And I go, "Oh, crap."
Oh, yeah, that's a rough one. Just don't do that to us on our birthday here.
No, for sure. Talk about Sunday. Talk about, what you guys
It's going to be awesome. We've got 4 V-22 Ospreys, so that's a tilt-rotor aircraft. For those that aren't familiar, we can take off like a helicopter, fly like an airplane. So we're going to be overhead at 250 knots, overhead the Superdome with 2 F-35s as well. So 6-plane flyover, awesome display of combat power over the Super Bowl.
Well, I didn't know if you were going to talk about that.
He said it great.
Talk about not only the competition among the pilots at the Marines, but the pilots with the Thunderbirds and all the other branches that have pilots.
So those are specifically demonstration pilots. We are what we call fleet pilots. So this doing flyovers is just it's something we are certainly able to do and that we do all the time. But those folks that's all they do is demos and flyover and stuff like that. So because of our capabilities, we're able to go and do an awesome show for everybody, an awesome flyover. But really, we're constantly training for combat. So those guys are training for shows. We're training for combat.
What's interesting too is so we're both naval aviators. Marine Corps Aviation is part of naval aviation, and when we go through flight school, when we go through training, and when we're in the squadron, we fly the same form as Blue Angels do, right? They just do it a little bit closer because they practice all the time to do that. So everyone's trained the same way, and then those guys and gals that end up in the Blue Angels, somewhere like that, they're combat pilots too, and they just have a different mission now.
Yeah.
What, if you're even allowed to talk about it, are some of the Marine traditions, like crossing the equator for us? There's some things that we can and cannot talk about.
I've got my shellback.
I'm a shellback as well. Yeah.
There you go. We stick together. And how do you treat that card? That card's like one of the most prized possessions.
Framed on my wall.
I have it framed. I have the card framed. I remember vividly going through the flight deck, starting off in the hangar deck, and having to crawl through, and then getting up to the flight deck, having to do all types of stuff that we don't need. We talk about off air,
Right.
And then ending into a big vat. It was a big storage container that they filled up with sea dye and water, and you had to go get dunked in. And then,
That's all that was in yours? You were lucky.
I'm just going to say.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
We'll keep it G.
I gotta jump in. Being an Army person, I got no idea what you guys are talking about.
So shellback is when you cross the equator. So
Okay.
typically, when you go from north to south.
All right.
It's a big celebration from the Navy heritage and
Okay.
being
It's a
Marines,
day-long
It's
event.
a whole day. That's what we
Technically,
spend.
it's a 2-day because
Oh, that's what they
the
both get it
pollywogs
before.
get to go
Yeah.
first. So if you're not a shellback yet, but here's where when you're that young,
A pollywog.
you're so you're,
Again, Army, raising hand, polywog, definition, please.
Somebody that hasn't done it yet.
Right.
Oh,
Somebody
okay,
who
okay.
hasn't somebody who hasn't gone through the tradition, and but you're so young and dumb at that age that you're not thinking. So when you haven't, you get to torture the ones that have, not realizing the next day is called payback for a reason. So if you do something stupid, it's going to be even worse on the next day.
That's right.
Yeah.
So a shellback is sort of a rites of passage.
That's right.
Crossing the equator.
Yep.
It is.
Cool.
It is.
But you mentioned what other traditions are specific to aviation. Call signs, obviously. So we have a big, we can't obviously talk about everything, but we have a kangaroo court is what we call it. And
Oh,
that's
yeah.
all the pilots in the ready room get together and decide each other's names. And Marines are pretty tough on each other, as you might know.
We don't get cool call signs.
Yeah,
It's
no one's Viper around.
no Iceman or any of that stuff. No.
You're like smelly butt. Like that's
Do you, if the whole unit goes with one and you don't like it, how much pushback, or are you stuck with?
You better not say anything. So
Really?
if you
suck it up.
the second you they let it be known that you don't like your call sign, it's going to stick even
Yeah.
more.
Or
So
you got to say, man,
that's a
I love smelly butt. That's
Yeah.
a great one. I like that one.
Oh, no,
Maybe
he
it'll
likes
go
smelly
away.
butt.
yeah, you got to pitch it up first.
Yeah, right.
Talk about the training. We have some friends that went through it in the Navy, and they've told me stories, where they drop you in this place and you run for your life, and they catch you. And
Oh,
and all
yeah,
that.
that's
I'm
cool.
going to tell you something off the air just because I don't know if I'm allowed to tell it on. But is there anything during your training that you can talk about, and how rough and tough it is?
Yeah, flight school in of itself is very difficult, and it's meant to be. So we call it a fire hose. They're just going to plug it up and make sure you don't drown. And it's a lot of information in a short period of time that you have to process, and then be able to perform every day. But there's always that's the flying part, but. Then you have the studying, and then the interpersonalities, and then
It's the Navy, so we have to swim well.
yeah, lots of swimming, lots and lots of swimming, which is
drown proofing too.
you have to be
and-
able to drown. You have to be able to swim with all of your gear on, and it's very difficult. So, and some of the training that we do is obviously all with the Navy when we do all of our swim training, and the Navy does a great job. I mean, some of the I know it's hard. I don't like it at the time, but I know how important that type of training is, because if I ever find myself in that situation at night in the water, I mean, you think about it, you've already crashed at that point. So if you are able to get out of that aircraft, you've already survived a crash. You're probably hurt. You're probably scared, and now you're going to rely on that training that the Navy's going to give you to get out of the water, or to get out of the aircraft and get up to the water, and then start helping your buddies, and then that's the
staying
next
alive,
step.
staying
And
alive.
then
When I was in the Army, and I was in PSYOPs for a few years, and it was attached to Special Forces, so we had to be drown proofed. And let me tell you, I did. So we would go down to Camp Pendleton, and it was just part of our course. Yeah, once a year, and we would go through. Obviously, it's not anything what you go through. It's in a pool, and it's a controlled environment. But still, even so, with that, going into the pools and jumping to, traveling, I hats off to you guys, because it is bizarro. I mean, it's just a weird thought
It's a
to have to
different thing,
think,
yeah.
and at night, and then using your clothing to act as, little
Flotation,
pockets
yeah.
of air, and a lot of people don't realize that the military clothing is actually made a special way. You wonder about those bell bottoms. We just thought they were fashion,
they're
but
made,
no,
you
they're
could
not.
turn them into a life preserver.
Life
but,
preserver.
One of the things they do, I mean, they put us in this chamber. It looks like a cabin, a cockpit, and it drops into the water. It goes straight into the water, and then it goes upside down. And you're not allowed to get out of that contraption until you are fully submerged, fully upside down, and then you unbuckle.
Yeah.
Then you open up a window, you swim out, and you have to be able to do it. And they do it blindfolded. So they do it.
I was
They do
gonna say,
it
it's
blacked out
dark.
goggles.
Right.
That
so-
was in Officer and a Gentleman.
yes, that was it.
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
right.
So I wanted to ask about some of those movies. I know my wife's a nurse. She doesn't really like a lot of the nurse things. Police friends of mine don't like to watch, Chicago PD or whatever. Top Gun, Officer and a Gentleman. Do you guys watch that? Do you cringe at it? And how realistic is some of that stuff? Okay.
Yeah, I think we absolutely watch it. We're nerds about it. I took all my kids to see Top Gun 2, but at the same time, there's a lot of things we can make fun of, right? Obviously, they're Navy pilots, so we give a little.
We're already gonna make fun of them.
Yeah, we're going to make fun of them anyways. But it gets people excited about what we do, which is pretty cool.
What's the washout rate in the first phase?
Well, we were talking about it earlier, and so like in OCS, when you're trying to just
Officer
become a Marine
Candidate School.
officer. Yep, sorry for the acronyms.
That's okay.
We're around a whole bunch of.
Army does know that one.
So officer candidate school, there's about a 50% attrition rate a lot of times.
Okay.
And so after that, then you go to flight school, and then there's another probably 20 to 30% that drop from
Is
there.
it pretty quick, or how? What's the? I know if we're in the military, when we go to PLDC or just sergeant's training is what it is. I think it was about half made it when I went there, and but most people would fail like land nav, maybe their PT test. I was just
gets you.
curious what it
Yeah.
is that most people.
I
fail
was
at.
actually an instructor at OCS, and it's a school, so there's events that the students have to pass, the candidates have to pass, and we want to do our best to make sure that we're training these future Marines. If they're failing at something, as a leader, as an officer, we have to make sure that I'm not setting them up for failure. Did we make sure that they were prepared and ready to go? And if I can honestly say, nope, this candidate was ready to go. He was 100% prepared, but he was not able to meet the standard. Then he's gonna have to go or try again.
All right, so I want to ask a timing question, because time, and they're already giving me looks, and one thing, Marines are never late. So the final question for you, the timing of the flyover. Talk about that and how it has to go down with the national anthem, and you're kind of on a time
Absolutely.
schedule.
So, there's an overarching air boss that is here to help us out, but the Super Bowl committee gives us a time to be there, and that's our bread and butter, to be somewhere exactly when we're supposed to be there, on time, on target. And so it's something we practiced. We practiced yesterday. We're going to practice again on Friday, and we're going to hit it right on. It's going to look awesome for the Super Bowl.
I appreciate your time. I want to both give you one of my challenge coins.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Limited.
so much.
I have one
That's
for
awesome.
civilians, but this color and everything only go to us active and veterans.
That's great.
To
I'll
those
find-
who deserve.
To those that deserve.
Well, we're glad we met the bar today.
A notch above my Air Force guys, so it worked out well. All right, live on YouTube, coming to you from Radio Row. Go live in about 15 minutes.